welcome back to my channel. In today's video I would like to talk about autism levels. Now I just want to provide a little background to this because I'm sure that many of you watching will know what autism levels are, but not everyone will do, so I'd just like to talk a little bit about what autism levels are. So in the last the latest edition of the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, DSM number 5, I think that's right. So DSM. I think it was DSM 5. I think, or was it DSM 4? Anyway, one of the latest editions. Anyway, they got rid of the old categorical diagnoses such as Asperger's syndrome, pervasive developmental disorder not otherwise specified, and there were a few others. I think it's Rett's disorder and childhood disintegrative disorder and a few other conditions. They got rid of the categorical conditions and they collapsed them all into autism spectrum disorder, so replacing categorical conditions with an autism spectrum disorder diagnosis. So you no longer have autistic disorder, more colloquially known as classic autism, but technically in the diagnostic manuals it was simply autistic disorder, and then that was kind of rather informally graded mild or severe, and then you'd have like Asperger's as a separate thing and so on. You no longer have that, now you have autism spectrum disorder. So it's moved from this categorical approach to a more dimensional approach. I got diagnosed before the changes. I got diagnosed, I had my initial assessment at the end of 2008, but I was officially diagnosed midway through 2009 because I had to have several appointments. So I was officially diagnosed at the beginning of 2009, and back then they still had the old categorical diagnoses, although I was diagnosed simply with autism spectrum disorder, I think because it was kind of in anticipation of the later changes, and also because I think they felt that autism carried more weight than, say, the Asperger's diagnosis, which back then often wasn't taken seriously and so on. But yeah, so I was diagnosed before the changes came about. So now, if you're diagnosed now, you will be diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, and then you're likely to be given a level. However, I have heard that not all clinicians use levels. Some clinicians don't like levels and won't talk about them or use them, so some people get diagnosed without a level. Because apparently they don't have to give. I don't think they have to give someone a level. It's not like there's a categorical commandment that they have to give someone a level. Some clinicians will simply diagnose a person with autism spectrum disorder and will then kind of like describe their impairments in their report or whatever they have and how severe their needs are and so on. Some will just simply do that. So not all clinicians give levels. I know there was one clinician, I think, that working in my local area, who I think said that she didn't use levels or something. I can't quite remember. I think she said she didn't use levels anyway, or because she didn't think I don't know whether she didn't approve of them or something. So obviously I've never been given a level because I was diagnosed before levels came in, and like I said, even now they do have levels. Not everyone will be given a level. And levels are actually highly subjective. Anyway, but there are 3 levels, level 1, level 2 and level 3. Levels describe the severity of social skills and behaviour, and by behaviour is meant restrictive and repetitive behaviour. So they take the 2 domains in the diagnosis, social skills and restrictive repetitive behaviour, also known as RRBs, and the levels kind of take each of the domains and look at how severe the person's difficulties are in each area, and then we'll average it out to give the person a sort of level. So I suppose if someone has really, really severe repetitive behaviours but milder social communication difficulties, they can still end up with a higher level just because their rigid and repetitive behaviours are causing them so much, or hampering them to a considerable extent. They still might get a higher level, even if their social communication difficulties are a lot milder than that level. I suppose it's up to the clinician's discretion really, but they should really take into account both of those 2 domains. So level 1 is level 1 requires support. So I guess, this is the idea that anyone diagnosed autism will at least need some support, at least in theory, although some people just don't seem to get by without any support at all, and I think that maybe there should be a level 0 for people like that. But level 1 is often used for those, most people in the level 1 category would have formerly been diagnosed with Asperger's, but not all of them, because of course some people formerly diagnosed with Asperger's will actually be in level 2. I'll come on to that. But level 1 requires support, and level 1 is said to be the least severe, and they only require minimal support. They may be able to have some relationships, they might be able to attain some degree of independence, they might not need that much support, and yeah, that's level 1. Level 2 requires substantial support, so this is the mid-range in terms of severity. They need more support than level 1. I would say I'm definitely level 2, but I'll come on to that in more detail later. Like I said, I have never been given a level. Part of me would quite like to actually go back and be assessed just to ask for an official level, because obviously, I would like that. But I'm assuming I'm level 2 anyway, just because obviously, I do require substantial support. Like, my dad does everything for me, and when he's no longer around, the support I need from services will obviously increase. And obviously I can't, I live semi-independently. I don't need someone around me all the time. I do have some basic self-care skills, like obviously I can cook and stuff. Cooking's my special interest though, so I do actually happen to have a kind of splinter skill in cooking, because it's my special interest, like spiky profile, but I can't do other stuff. Like, cooking's like the exception. Cooking is like the only self-help skill I actually excel at. But yeah, that's because it's my special interest. But yeah, I live semi-independently, but I do need substantial support. I need a lot more support than level 1. I don't just need support, I need a lot of support, and I can't work and stuff. So yeah, level 2 is mid-range, so that's kind of in the middle. You need more support than level 1, more difficulty with social skills, challenges in social situations may be more noticeable to other people around them. It says they may or may not communicate verbally, so some people in level 2 won't communicate verbally. This is quite interesting because I'll come on to this in more detail later, but obviously each part of each level can actually include quite a diverse array of different people. So some other people might share a level with you who are in some respects more severe than you, in some areas, and you still might be in the same level, because obviously it doesn't just take into account one domain, it takes into account 2 domains, and then it looks at different features of each domain. But yeah, so someone in level 2 may or may not communicate verbally. If they do, their conversations may only be on specific topics. So yeah, that's interesting. I guess it's a bit like me, I can talk till the cows come home, but I can only talk about my special interests, and if someone's talking about stuff I'm not interested in, I just switch off. This happened recently actually, at a group I go to, because I attend some groups. Basically, my social motivation can just suddenly switch off like that. So basically, if I'm at a group and people are talking about stuff I have absolutely no interest in at all, and normal people, I think, kind of reciprocate and try and express interest in the other person and stuff. But for me, if it's something I'm genuinely not interested in because it's something that's not related to my interests, or I'm just getting bored, absolutely shitless, basically I just switch off, and I'd much rather be pursuing my interests than just be listening to something that doesn't even interest me. So I try and I pay lip service to social stuff. I do try, and I do have some social motivation, obviously, or I wouldn't attend groups and stuff or do YouTube. So obviously I do have some social motivation. I'm not completely without it. But it's either on or it's not on, and I find it very, very difficult to talk about anything not connected to my interests. And I also basically find it very hard not to steer a conversation back to my interest. I'm constantly wanting to do that. I'm constantly trying to have to check myself not to do it, because I know it's inappropriate. But I can only do that half successfully, and basically because it is such an effort, sometimes I just cannot do it, and yeah, so I will just randomly pull out of social situations, which I know is inappropriate, and obviously people do get annoyed, or they're like, where's she gone and stuff. So yeah, I really struggle in social situations, obviously. So Yeah, so as it says here, people in level 2, conversations may only be on specific topics. Yeah, I love talking about my special interests, so I've got to talk a lot about autism because that's one of my special interests, yeah. Or when I was at AGK, I used to just go on and on about food. Anna, you're supposed to be serving customers. Yeah. Or may need extensive support to participate in social activities. It says conversations may be very short. Obviously, for me, I can maintain it took me a long time to learn how to do this. I can maintain conversations, but it comes at a great deal of mental stress, and also, like I said, I will be wanting to talk about stuff I'm interested in, and if a conversation sort of veers or goes off in an area that I'm not interested in, that really annoys me. I like it where I can feel I can control the conversation. Like when I'm with a support worker, for example, that I can basically appear much more capable than I actually am in those situations, simply because it's so structured. I know, and that in a sense is like a scaffold, and means that my social problems aren't as obvious. And also, of course, with a support worker, I'm in control, and if I want to talk about something else, I can do it. Like I don't have to justify it or anything. You know, it's a lot more. Yeah, I can talk about my special interest if cows come home with a support worker. It's fine. I think I kind of camouflage my difficulties a bit, but essentially the conversation is just about my special interests. So, they may not look at someone who is talking to them, may not express emotions through facial expressions, and also they must follow their routines. People with level 2 autism will find it a lot harder to deviate from their routines than people with level 1, usually. Level 3 is for those who have very substantial support needs. So most people in level 3 will have what used to be called classic autism, and the vast majority of people in level 3 will be basically minimally verbal or will not even be able to speak at all. They will need 24/7 support, so someone with them all the time. Often they won't have any independent skills. However, there are exceptions to these. I used to think that level 3 was just for those with really, really severe autism and like no ability to talk, but as I'll come on to afterwards, says that actually it's possible for someone to be verbal and even to have a university degree and be in level 3, which is news to me, so I'll come on to that. Okay, so moving over to video number 2 now.